Your dog has already formed an opinion about the people in your life, and that opinion is based entirely on how those people treat you. Research on canine social cognition found that dogs will refuse food from a stranger who was unkind to their owner, even when that same stranger offers the food directly and warmly. If you want to understand what your dog is really telling you, you are in the right place. Picture this. A friend comes over. They are cheerful with you, laughing, leaning in, and then your dog walks in and does something you have seen before but never quite understood. The dog sniffs once, takes a step back, finds a corner of the room and watches from a distance. Your friend notices. They crouch down, make the squeaky voice, offer a hand, and the dog just stares at them, unmoved. You laugh it off. Dogs are quirky. Maybe the dog smelled something. Maybe they are having an off day. But what if neither of those things was true? What if your dog had read something about that interaction, something between you and your friend, and made a decision about that person based on what they observed? Not the cheerfulness, not the hand extended in greeting, but something more subtle. The quality of the attention your friend gave you, whether that person was genuinely warm toward you or performing warmth while directing it elsewhere. Your dog was not having an off day. Your dog was doing something that researchers now have a name for. The behavior researchers are studying is called third-party affective evaluation. It is the ability to watch an interaction between two other individuals, assess the quality of that interaction, and then form a judgment about one of those individuals, a judgment that shapes your own behavior toward them. We thought this was a human skill, or at minimum, a primate skill. It requires social cognition sophisticated enough to track relationships between others, not just your relationship with the world directly. It is the difference between knowing someone was mean to you and knowing someone was mean to your person. In 2011, a team led by Sarah Marshall-Pessany at the University of Milan ran a study in which an owner asked a stranger for help, a simple task, opening a container. In some trials, the stranger refused to help, not rudely, just flatly, a clean social rejection. Then the stranger offered the dog a treat, and the dogs who had watched that refusal, who had seen the stranger turn their owner away, were significantly more likely to decline the food. They were not hungry. They were not sick. They had watched something, and they had formed an opinion. Your dog is not just experiencing the world through their nose. Number 1. The food refusal itself is the data point that matters most, because food is never casual for a dog. For a dog to decline offered food from a stranger is unusual. Dogs are food-motivated in ways that are deeply biological. Refusing a treat from an unfamiliar person is not the default behavior. If anything, novelty and food together usually combine into enthusiastic engagement. So when researchers saw dogs consistently refusing treats from the stranger who had turned their owner away, they had to rule out every simpler explanation. Was the dog just following the owner's emotional state, picking up on anxiety or irritation? Researchers controlled for this. Owners were kept neutral. Was the dog resource guarding? The food was offered independently, away from the owner. Was this learned avoidance of a specific posture or tone? The refusals were observed even when the stranger deliberately softened their approach to the dog. What remained after eliminating the alternatives was the most interesting explanation. The dog had evaluated the stranger as a social actor based on how that stranger had treated the person the dog was attached to. The food refusal was not fear. It was not confusion. It was a social verdict. That is not instinct in the simple sense. Number 2. The same paradigm, run in reverse, tells the other half of the story. In the Nichner and colleagues study, published in 2012 in PLOS One, researchers at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology tested whether dogs would show a preference for strangers who actively helped their owner over strangers who did nothing. They found that dogs were more willing to accept food and engage with the helpful stranger over the neutral bystander. The social ledger works in both directions. Kindness toward the owner generates trust. Refusal generates withdrawal. And the remarkable part is that the dog did not need to be the recipient of that kindness or unkindness to register it. The dog was observing a transaction between two other individuals and drawing conclusions about character. This is not reading a stranger's energy in some vague intuitive sense. This is specific, directed, based on witnessed social behavior. And it updates based on new information, which means it is a genuine evaluative process, not a fixed response pattern. When someone is good to you, your dog moves toward them. When someone is not, your dog creates distance. They are not being antisocial. If that just made you see your relationship with your pet in a completely different way, hit subscribe. We explore the science of the human-pet bond every week and what it reveals about us. All right, let us keep going. Number 3. What the dog is doing is something developmental psychologists call social partner evaluation, and it shows up in human infants around 6 to 9 months of age. Before children have language, before they have the abstract tools to reason about fairness, they already prefer puppets that helped a neutral character over puppets that hindered one. The preference is pre-verbal and apparently pre-cultural. It appears to be something close to a moral instinct, a built-in tendency to sort the social world into those who help and those who harm. Dogs appear to share this instinct, not because they were trained to, not because they computed it, but because the social world requires fast, accurate assessments of the beings inside it. Evolution rewards organisms that can read character quickly. A dog who trusts the wrong individual in the pack, the one who undermines others, who refuses cooperation, is a dog who becomes vulnerable. So what looks like your dog being standoffish at a dinner party is at a deeper level, a survival mechanism that has been refined across millennia of social living. Your dog is running a character assessment, and they are running it every time you are in a social situation with another person. The question is whether you are running the same one or whether you have learned to turn it off. Number 4. In every study in this research lineage, the owner functions as the dog's social reference point, the fixed coordinate around which all other people are assessed. This is closely related to the concept of social referencing, which researchers at Eötvös Loránd University in Budapest have studied extensively. When a dog encounters a new object or a new situation, they often look at the owner first. The owner's emotional response calibrates the dog's. A relaxed owner in a tense situation can genuinely settle a dog's nervous system. An anxious owner in a safe situation can genuinely spike a dog's stress response. But what the third-party evaluation research adds is a new dimension. The owner is not just an emotional regulator, they are a social identity. Other people are evaluated through the lens of how they relate to that identity. Not just whether the stranger seems dangerous in the abstract, but whether the stranger treats the owner with respect, warmth, and goodwill. This is a sophisticated social schema. It requires the dog to hold in mind a relationship, yours, and use it as the metric for assessing a third party. Your dog is not just reacting. They are reasoning, in their own way, about social trustworthiness, and they are doing it more consistently than most humans do. Number 5. Here is where the owner psychology becomes the real story. Most people, when they notice their dog avoiding a specific person, explain it away. The dog is tired. The dog smells something. The dog is just being weird today. They rationalize the signal because accepting it at face value would require them to take a social position, and that feels uncomfortable. Maybe that person is a close family member. Maybe that person is a colleague they cannot afford to alienate. Maybe the dog's reaction is touching a part of the owner's experience they are not ready to examine. Psychologists studying adult attachment have long documented a pattern called deactivating strategies, ways that people with avoidant attachment styles suppress, dismiss, or override their own emotional and social signals in order to maintain closeness with others and avoid conflict. People who use these strategies tend to notice less in their relationships, or notice and attribute it to something neutral and manageable. Your dog is not using deactivating strategies. Your dog registers the signal cleanly and holds it. They do not rationalize it. They do not smooth it over for social comfort. That is not neediness. That is integrity. And watching how your dog responds to the people you have allowed into your life is sometimes the most honest report you will ever get about those relationships. Number 6. The final piece is what happens after the evaluation, the trust transfer, or the lack of it. When your dog decides that a person treats you well, something opens up. The dog becomes warmer with that person over repeated visits. They seek them out. They relax in their presence. Trust for a dog is not a snapshot judgment. It accumulates across interactions. It is updated. A person who is consistently kind to the owner becomes genuinely safe in the dog's social map. The reverse is also true. A person who has been cold, dismissive, or unkind to the owner does not easily earn their way back. The dog remembers, and because dogs are not performing social niceties, they do not feel. Their behavior toward that person remains subdued, regardless of surface-level overtures. This is not the dog being dramatic. This is the dog maintaining a coherent social reality. They are tracking something real, a pattern in how this person relates to the person they love most, and they are updating their behavior accordingly. The human owner, meanwhile, may have already forgiven, minimized, or completely forgotten the unkind moment. The dog has not. They are holding the accurate version of events. And sometimes, the most useful thing you can do is let yourself notice what your dog already knows. So here is what this research is actually asking you to consider about yourself. Your dog has a social barometer that is calibrated around you, around your well-being, your relationships, and the quality of care that the people in your life extend toward you. That barometer is not subject to your rationalizations, your loyalty binds, your history with a person, or your fear of conflict. It is simply observing and recording. The owner psychology that emerges from this research is not about whether you are a good or bad judge of character. It is about noticing what you do with the information you already have. Most of us, at some level, sense when someone is not quite treating us right. We feel the flatness of an interaction, the slight dismissiveness, the moment of unkindness that we quickly attribute to stress or a bad day. Your dog does not attribute it to a bad day. Your dog files it. None of that makes you a bad owner. It makes you human. We are wired for social belonging, and belonging often requires us to smooth over signals that would complicate things if we sat with them. But your dog is offering you something, a second opinion that has no agenda, no history, no fear of the fallout, just a clear read on whether the person across from you is treating you the way someone who values you should. That is worth paying attention to. The next time your dog takes a step back from someone, pulls away, finds a corner, watches from a distance without warming up, do not rush to explain it away. They are not being difficult. They are not being unsociable. They watched how that person moved through the space between you. They watched what that person gave you and what they withheld, and they formed a view. You did not teach your dog to do this. No one did. It is something they carry as a species, this capacity to care about fairness, to track how the people in their circle treat the ones they love. The research calls it third-party affective evaluation. You might just call it loyalty, or honesty, or the quiet accuracy of an animal that has no reason to pretend. Your dog is not judging you. They are watching out for you. And the only question left is whether you are willing to take that seriously, whether you are ready to hear the report your dog has already written about the people in your life. They have been trying to tell you for a long time. Thank you for investing your time with us today. Now that you know your dog actively evaluates the people in your life based on how they treat you, we are curious. Has your dog ever consistently avoided or warned to someone in a way that turned out to be accurate about that person? Let us know in the comments. New episodes drop every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, so make sure you are subscribed to catch the next one. Until then, decode your dog, decode yourself.